dumb idiot. Looks like you got yourself a saucy hand.
Yeah, I do.
Try yourself a Picasso boneless wing. Maybe next.
Well,
Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
folks, welcome into a brand new episode of the Crowd Assist Podcast, the official Bills podcast of Trainwreck Sports, presented by our good friends at Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And also Picasso's Pizza, one of Buffalo's premier pizza destinations, known, of course, for their incomparable cup and char pepperoni. Yeah, I'm moving back to Buffalo next year sometime, and you know when I'm back, I'm gonna be having so much Picasso's Pizza. Make sure you place your orders for Sunday now and guarantee some great food for your game day watch parties or for your tailgates. And as you can see, we've got a packed house tonight to talk about the season so far, the state of the AFC, and of course, this weekend's matchup against the Miami Dolphins. Wake here with the Dart Daddy MereKat, my day one partner in crime, Kevin Masseri, and the contributor formerly known as Intern Cullen. Guys, let's get right into it. Bills are 4-2 after the bye week. Before the season started, I'm sure we would all have, taken a look at the schedule. The Dolphins had hope. The Chiefs didn't stink quite yet. The Steelers' defense was still daunting. The Titans, fun offense, but a defense that stinks. My perspective is that before the season, I would have taken 4-2, 110%. But now I'm not sure how satisfied I am with it. So let's just maybe all go around the room here. Kevin, start with you. How would preseason Kevin feel knowing that the Bills are 4-2? And how does present day Kevin feel about it?
I think preseason Kevin had this at a 5-1 mark. I think the 4-2 is acceptable, but would have been on the lower end of what I would have wanted. I probably would have signed just because you don't know what could happen to your offense. You don't know what the regression, especially preseason. 4-2 with their probably, beside a Tampa, New Orleans stretch later on this year, probably their hardest stretch of the year. You probably sign off on that. In a perfect world, I don't love the Pittsburgh-Tennessee combo loss. I would have rather had a New Orleans loss on the road on Thanksgiving night rather than potentially lose a really important tiebreaker. You could have buried Tennessee really with that. So I'm happy. I'm glad they are where they are. Though that does come with a caveat of they have a couple slip-ups on a pump block, some special teams issues last week. I've heard some things like, their special teams is good. Well, their field position is heavily altered by some turnovers, special teams issues galore. Can't have guys active. They'll commit holding penalties. Guys, I'm okay with 4-2. But I would have liked 5-1. I will say though, there's no room for error because if there is an error at one of these games, you're looking at playing Cleveland in round one. You're looking at playing a team that it could be around those range. Could be dangerous to come in like we saw Indy last year, coming into Highmark Stadium, and you don't love to see it, a team that could be coming in hot that play their way in. So, it's important that you get it done now. You can't have slip up, you can't have pump blocks.
No.
MereKat. No, 100%. And Wake, you kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit earlier. You said if you would have told me before the season we start 4-2, kind of in line with my predictions, but you tell me it's, we beat the Chiefs and we lose to the Steelers week 1 and then lose to the Titans. That's what upsets me a little bit there. Came into this season, the early half of the schedule, I had my sights set on 2 games. It was the Chiefs and the Titans. I was like, we need to win these, but I was ready to lose the Chiefs game, no matter how confident I was heading into it, already into the middle of the season. Sure. But just losing that Titans game, it's just a real disheartener after last year. And it makes that, like Kevin said, that battle for the number 1 seed in the AFC, which is so important this year, a little trickier because you hope you could take advantage of the Chiefs when they're down, but then, you're losing position to the Titans. And that's just something you don't want. Now, am I still feeling fine at 4-2? Yeah, we would have liked 5-1. I would have liked to, I would have rather have lost the Chiefs game than the Titans game. I know it doesn't matter, and that's a stupid thing to say, but honestly, that's just how I feel right now, and with the way things are playing out. So I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm happy with it. Beggars can't be choosers, but we want more than begging right now. We want this team to be elite.
Yeah, and Cullen, through 6 games, do you think this team is elite?
Yeah.
I don't think.
Season,
that's not really a question.
It's not.
Really I wasn't questioning it there. You know what I? Yeah, but we want them to be the top of the AFC right now.
Yeah, and going into the season, I thought 5-1 at this point was reasonable. I was expecting them to lose either the Chiefs or the Titans game. I didn't really believe that going into the season that they would be able to beat both those teams coming in, especially when we thought the Titans would be. I mean, they're good now, but we thought they'd be a lot better. We thought Julio Jones is going to go in there and be playing a lot better than he is. But, this team is, like Kevin said, they're a pump block away from a win in the Steelers, holding penalty on a kick return touchdown, or a Josh Allen misstep away from being 6-0. So this team is great. A lot of people like to point towards that we haven't beaten a team over 500 yet or whatever, those excuses. But you look up and down this team, and it's full of star players, it's full of talent, and it's full of guys that want to get the job done and are very capable of getting that job done.
Yeah, and speaking of guys getting the job done, like just through 6 weeks, is the run game has been. I mean, there was a reason that MereKat, Masari, and Cullen, in your article when you chose your most improved bill, did you choose anyone involved in the run game? Because that was something that MereKat, Kevin, and I were all in lockstep with. Like, we had 2 running backs and Mitch Morse, who was going to lead the offensive line through it.
I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I had Epinesa in there, and after the first couple of weeks, it looked really good, especially after that first Dolphins game. And now it's like he's not active last week. Hope he should be active this week again against the Dolphins when he feasted. But I think I had Epinesa, if I'm remembering correctly, and I did have Emmanuel Sanders as my best newcomer, so that's paying off really well right now.
Yeah, between him and Greg Rousseau, I mean, I think those are the 1 and 2 for best newcomer right now, if you want to count Greg in there too. But yeah, that Epinesa, I mean, we never talked about it. That was just them getting too cute with roster decisions, trying to go big to stop Derrick Henry. I mean, like, it worked stopping Derrick Henry. There are 3 holds on the same play away from him being less than 3.8 yards per carry. So I guess in theory it worked, but then that was also the defensive line that kind of allowed Ryan Tannehill to not miss a pass in the 4th quarter. So, I mean, I'd rather personally let Derrick Henry eat than get killed by Ryan Tannehill in a comeback win. It was that we never talked about that. I can't believe I didn't talk about this with you guys. Like, were you guys as pissed off, perplexed? Like, what that move was that? I feel like oftentimes this Bills coaching staff maybe tries to outsmart themselves, and I think that's just another example.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying it's the worst move in the world, but they
did
it right. They were trying to get too cute with it. They're trying to game plan too specifically to a single player. It didn't really work out for us. I mean, you could take away the long run, but I mean, it's what Derrick Henry does. You can't, he gets those long runs. That happens, and holdings are not aside. Like, Derrick Henry was gonna do something to hurt us in this game, and he did it
eventually.
Exactly. And so trying to game plan specifically for that and taking away guys who might be more impactful, in multiple facets of the game just because of size, not a fan of that move.
No,
I don't. It's more about why, right? It's not a matter of what was the game plan specifically. The Bills have played this game plan of activating every defensive tackle you have. You don't rush the passer, make Henry, really respect you and beat you. And to me, it's a holding call that happened, right? It did not happen, excuse me. And you run the ball 20 times. It's just like a DB who is going to hold, and the Bills were doing it against the Chiefs early on, holding. We saw those calls come out. If those calls didn't come out, the Bills defense would have feasted, right? Same with the Tennessee offense. If those holding calls happen, well, guess what? It comes back. But they're banking on the fact, especially in one play, none of them got called. It happened. And it's the same thing DBs do against being physical with offensive receivers. And you saw it here against the Bills in running the ball. Now, my issue isn't necessarily with that. I got an issue with one major thing. I'm sorry, you don't need 2 special teams only linebackers on top of already having 2. I'm not 2 extra. You already have MereKat. You already have, as long as your linebackers are healthy, you have AJ Klein, and now you have Andre Smith, and you have Dodson. They committed a holding on the same play. Like, it is, to me, it's egregious. I'm sorry. The special teams unit's not good. You go up and down the field. Really, their DVOA is okay, special teams related. I think McKenzie's been a really good returner. He's probably been better than Roberts at times. But there's holding every time that they return the ball. They're having issues on coverage. Their punt game's not great. They've been having, Tyler Bass probably brings up that the kick unit probably brings up that DVOA a little bit. So they have some weapons on the special teams front. To me, you don't need to activate multiple linebackers and then leave a young pass rusher off. So here's my pick. You could have changed the game plan on the fly in the fourth quarter. You could have put in Epinesa. You could have altered it a little bit. You now don't have that opportunity because you wanted to cover an extra kick. To me, I don't think it's the right move. You don't play linebackers. It is. You play the most nickel in the league. There's no reason to have that many linebackers active on game day. And to me, it was funny. Epinesa is the number 1 rated Bills player against the run per PFF. Yeah. And people are like, PFF sucks. I'm like, well, whether they suck or not, he is the number 1 rated defender against the run. Bad call. Yeah. It was bad all around. F.A. Obata added nothing as well. I don't think it was great active game day management, guys. I don't think it was great active game day management. They got a little cute with it. And to me, they could have used that pass rush down the stretch that Ryan Tannehill completed 11 straight passes.
Yeah, no, and it's good that they get these out of the way now. I think these are the mistakes that they're okay with making in the regular season, right? Like, I would prefer you don't make it against one of those teams you're jostling for playoff positioning, you're jostling for maybe the number 1 seed in the conference. I don't think Tennessee is number 1 seed good, but the AFC, the top of it, is just really, really deep. And that's something we'll talk about in a little bit. But first, I want to keep talking about the Bills and some things they need to improve on. Obviously, these game day roster decisions have to be at the forefront of it. Cullen, from your eyes, what's something you think that we need to do to kind of build on what we did in weeks 2 through 5?
I think finishing in the red zone is the easy answer here. Josh said it after the game, 2 for 5 last in the Titans game. That's not going to get it done. I mean, you still put up 31 points, but you still lose the game. How many teams are you going to put up 31 points against and lose? In the AFC, like you just said, it's very top heavy. There's a lot of teams that can put up points with you, and putting up 31 points might not be enough anymore. We just saw it in the game against Tennessee. So yeah, finishing in the red zone. And the one thing like I'm thinking about is I love the call to go for it with Josh at the end of the Titans game, but I'm just thinking to myself while I'm watching the game, where's that call? Like, where's that aggression in the first quarter when you're inside the red zone 2 times and you kick 2 field goals? You go for those ones there. It's 4th and 3, 4th and 4. You trust your defense. That's all it comes down to. You trust your defense, or you trust your offense more to get 3-4 yards. So I like the aggression at the end of the game, but go for it in the first quarter too. Get touchdowns there instead of field goals. You're not in that position at the end of the game. Converting in the red zone is pretty good. Yeah, I had the Christmas tree up at the last house I was at when I was doing the show last week. Kevin probably remembers. But finishing the red zone 2 for 5 is just not good enough now when you have teams like Cincinnati, Baltimore, Tennessee can put up points like crazy. And we're not even mentioning the Chiefs at the top of the AFC anymore. They can score points. Putting up 31 points is good, but I mean, you got to finish those touchdowns. They could have easily been a 40-point game for us, but getting touchdowns instead of field goals is really going to come down to it as the season goes along.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought I saw one stat, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but basically it was that the 2 top offenses in the league, Arizona Cardinals and the Buffalo Bills, and this was a couple weeks ago now, are actually like in the bottom third of the league in red zone efficiency, which is really bizarre to think about when you think about the weapons that both teams have. And so, I'm not going to say that, hey, the Cardinals are struggling with it too. No, the Bills do definitely have to figure this out. It was between, for me, that and just hitting the quarterback. Like it seems like it comes in waves. It comes in spurts. We had that massive, how many sacks against the Dolphins in week 2? Like 5, something like that. Greg Rousseau had 2 of them, I'm pretty sure, on the field that he played for in college. It comes down to that for me. And if we could have gotten more pressure on Ryan Tannehill, he's mobile. He can make plays last an extra 2 seconds, but hitting home on him, that changes the complexion of that game completely. As Kevin alluded to, his 11 consecutive completions to end the game, though, that doesn't happen if we can just get to him a little bit more. MereKat, is there anything that really hasn't been said on things to improve upon as the season goes on?
I mean, you guys have really touched base on most of it. I would just say more
Mhm.
consistency in the offense. You don't want to see us, start to run the ball and have success doing it, and then switch things up, constantly changing, between Moss and Singletary. I know they have their rhythm, the lightning and the thunder, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
but I just
whatever.
want to see more consistency with the play calling at times. Now it's definitely been cleaned up a bit. I mean, week one was maybe Brian Daboll's worst game as Bill's offensive coordinator. I remember with some of the play calling, and so we really haven't seen
Was
that
not
much
good.
since. And Allen has fully bounced back. The offense is going great for him. It's going to be interesting though to see now without Dawson Knox for at least 2 weeks. What they're going to be doing, if they're going to be running Tommy Sweeney, if we're going to have Reggie Gilliam involved now in more creative ways, if they're going to activate one of these guys off the practice squad, Gabriel Davis, thick tight end. I mean, who knows? Like, who knows what they're going to do? So I'm just curious to see. I want consistency out of the play calling, but now you got a wrench thrown into the whole offense and what's been working for you this year. Dawson Knox has been a catalyst, and it's been incredible out of nowhere. Tight end university. Shout out to Greg Olson. Shout out to Kittle. Those guys did their wonders on him. But these next 2 weeks, now the schedule might be light, but I want to see how they adapt without him, because you're going to suffer injuries. And you saw it cripple us at the end of last year at receiver at times, where the receivers were injured and stuff, and the offense was hitting some road bumps. So I want to see them adapt, but, kind of stay consistent to their offensive identity. Don't stray too far away. Don't get too cute with things. Just do what's working. Let Josh eat. Keep the running backs involved.
Enough running on 2nd and 10. I feel like I've seen enough of that. I feel like
in the red zone,
the red zone, no less, right, Kevin?
Yeah, you got to get rid of that. I mean, I thought Daboll was pretty creative, but I think I saw someone tweet it was like 6% lower in the red zone. It's not what you want, but are you losing on the 6%? To me, it's challenging. Your defense needs to straight up play better. Like, yes, the AFC's better. You can't score 31 points and lose. It just shouldn't happen. Like, I'm sorry. 24 is questionable, but as you get into the 30s, you shouldn't be losing games on any level to a quarterback throwing 11 straight completions. You had a bad defensive game plan in the second half. You were playing the run, and then you were catching and releasing from there. You saw Trey White back. Like, you saw players consistently then hit into zones playing the run. Like, you were just making the wrong calls at the wrong points of the game, when actually they were trying to throw at points. So to me, they knew that the Bills stopped the run pretty effectively. They did. So they started throwing the ball in the fourth quarter. They were able to feast on that. Ryan Tannehill did it to a larger extreme last year when the Bills were pretty unprepared for the COVID issues, whatever. They came out throwing the ball. Ryan Tannehill had a day. Ryan Tannehill struggles against the Bills historically previous to last year. So to me, I didn't like the game plan. Get after the passer, do what you did to Tua, get after Patrick like you did Patrick Mahomes, even though you dropped into zones. I mean, to me, I would have liked that model, but don't come up with one game plan specifically with your defensive tackles on the field at all times. You just invested a ton of money into your DNs and you inactivate 2 of them. Look, go get corners then. Go get a linebacker then. Go get an offensive lineman then. Do something differently. If you're going to have game plans, you're going to take your second round picks off the field because you're deep. I think you need to make different changes. I think you need to pick different personnel because, quite frankly, for whatever reason, the defensive end's interchangeable in your defense. So until you make a trade, until you trade Mario Addison or you do something like that in the next week, if you do, why are you investing in that position and then minimizing it when you're going against Derrick Henry? You're going to play players like Derrick Henry all postseason. You got to be a little bit better with your talent. To me, play your best players, make it work. AJ Epinesa is fine against the run. Make it happen. To me, I didn't like the game plan of taking best players off the field so you can activate special teams linebackers.
Yeah, exactly. The big thing last year when we played was we didn't have our best players going up against their best players. That's what happened in the regular season. And so I was hoping to finally see that again this year. So Kevin, the way you put that really puts it into words. And thank you for putting it that way. And I think that's a great time to move on. We did talk about other teams in the AFC, briefly alluded that we would get there. So now let's get there. The Bills are in a huge race right now for the number 1 seed. And there are so many different teams that aren't sitting at 5-2, that aren't sitting maybe even at 4-2, that could conceivably get up to the 1 seed with how competitive it's been. So MereKat, free money football. You guys talk sports betting all the time, every single Wednesday. Tell us, if there is a bet for someone to be the first seed in the AFC East or in the AFC, and it's not the Bills, who do you have?
I mean, I don't know the exact odds on it right now. I know right now the Chargers are basically even money to win the AFC West, which is insanity. I mean, that's incredible value. I would take them outside of the Bills to win the AFC, but my team, I've been a homer for them this year. They disappointed me a few times. I know you could poke holes in a lot of what they look like in, my head. But I think the Cleveland Browns are a legitimate threat, even in that AFC North. Now they're dealing with some injuries right now, but we've seen them be able to overcome that last week. They still got incredible production out of, I'm forgetting the guy's name, Dearness Johnson. That offensive line is so elite, and that does so much for their offense, whether it's Chubb and Hunt or it's Dearness Johnson. They're getting production out of that backfield. They're keeping Baker Mayfield upright and in somewhat of a clean pocket where he's being more efficient. Now we're not seeing Baker Mayfield take that step that we want, that we want, but that Cleveland fans want. But he's playing efficient, he's playing smart, and a lot of that is attributed to the O-line, and he has weapons around him to utilize. That offense, just surrounded by that offensive line, is a threat. Anybody there is a threat, and once they're healthy, they're going to start really chugging along. So it scares me a bit because it's Kevin Stefanski too. Good coach. Finally, the Browns have a good coach. The guy is smart. He schemes very well to his opponent. Cleveland will play to the – see, this is something that hinders them a bit. They play to the level of their opponent. They scheme to their opponent. Do. So when they play a bad team, they will play bad. They will look bad. But when they play a team like the Chargers, they will drive them into overtime and have some miraculousness from Justin Herbert need to beat them. So when they get healthy – they remind me of a better Tennessee almost, like when you really think about it, they're a much better offensive line, but they still have that dynamic force out of the backfield, good skilled receivers with a quarterback who struggles getting the ball sometimes, but then a defense that is much better. They get that 4-man rush, and that could really hurt you. And, talking about a 4-man rush, that's where the Bills defense has had a lot of success this year. They're not going to get pressure against that offensive line with 4, let me tell you right now. And that defense is second to the Bills in yards per game allowed right now. They're great against the run. They're pretty good against the pass. A lot of young, talented players coming together this year. They're getting better game by game, I think, as a whole. And once they're healthy, watch out, guys. If the Cleveland Browns take that AFC North, I think they make their way into the playoffs, whether it's wild card or winning it. But they're going to be a scary team, and that's a team that I could see making the wild card, and then the Bills having to play in the first round of the playoffs, and then just being a terrifying matchup. Terrifying. So that's my team.
Yeah, I would not. The Bills have gotten much better against the run than they were in the first couple years Sean McDermott was here. But that is definitely a team I do not want to see in the playoffs myself. Kevin, who is someone you're thinking that could take the top spot in the AFC? Someone you don't want to see the Bills play in the playoffs?
I mean, I think the game could be a little bit different against the Ravens. I know they just lost to the aforementioned Browns, but it's a week-to-week league. The Browns came out great. The offensive line played good. Lamar Jackson didn't look great last week, but on a one-off basis, to me, I still think that team's really good. Like, I think they have the defense to get it done. I think they have the offense with Lamar finding Hollywood Brown. They definitely have the running game going a little bit, but like if they had a running back, and we'll see if that's something that they address in the next couple of days. And Latavius Murray does his job. He was out, and you could tell a difference. Stupid Latavius Murray. Everyone laughs at him, but he's the best guy there.
Latavius Murray,
and he plays well in that offense. Like it's something stupid, but to me, you could tell like he's the right guy at this stage for Lamar Jackson. And they're a threat. It was a terrible elements game last year in the divisional game. He's a play away from tying the play prior to the pick six, right, guys? Like, don't forget about the Jerry Hughes play that very close to making. If it happens, it's a different football game. He might not get concussed. Josh Allen's on the field instead. It's a different football game. So really one play it ended the game, and look at Derrick Henry, anything. But in this case, it's a challenging football team. I still think they're the best outside of the Bills. And I'm not gonna put it past. Here's my wild. You want my wild card? And it's not the Bengals because I do not like the Bengals at all. Like,
they're scary. They're way.
I bet your wild card is going to be the team that I was going to say. Who is it?
I don't think so because it's nothing you're thinking of. I doubt it. Okay. I still think that there's hope for the Kansas City Chiefs because their team is good. They'll figure it out. Patrick Mahomes isn't going to play like the last 2 weeks very much longer. It's just like if Josh Allen got in a rut, guys. I still like the Chiefs. Maybe I just have PTSD of a team that's good.
Honestly,
I can't ever count them out from going on an 8-game run. Like the Packers under Rodgers have done it. Like I can't see them being that. Their offense is way too good. I can't see it happening. The defense
for better Mahomes and Gardens, I really hope you're right. My fantasy team is drowning with Patrick Mahomes playing how he is. Did not expect.
Can't count them out yet until they've like 8 losses. Even if 6 losses, I'm going to still say that. How about this, guys? Who do you want to play the least if you get the 2 seed? It's going to be Kansas. I have no interest in playing them in the 2v7 game. Like literally 0.
No way.
So to me, they're dangerous. Even if they don't get super, super duper hot, they're a team that you need to always watch out for because at any point they can go on a run and beat every team in the West. The next thing you know, they're 1 game away from the Bills. The Bills luckily have the tiebreaker. And then maybe we're saying, we're glad we beat them over the Titans. So you never know what could happen here coming up. But to me, the Kansas City Chiefs are a team I'm locking in. And I don't think the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens every single week, guys. Like I just don't. I don't see that happening. They got them. Yeah. They got them. Just like the Titans got us. It's the Bengals to me. They're going to be 9-8 by the time we finish. I think.
Colin, you said you had the Chiefs locked in as yours too. So give us a little more insight on that. Why do you think that that's the team outside of Mahomes?
The Chiefs are the team that I think if they get the 7th seed, I don't want them coming here.
No way.
The way I'm thinking is it's either going to be 2 teams from the AFC West that get those 2 wildcard spots, or it's going to be 1 from the West and 1 from the North. If Kevin's theory plays out and the Bengals go 9-8, then it's going to be 2 from the West. Or if MereKat, if the Browns can step up their game, if Baker can figure out what's going on, then it's going to be 1 from the North, 1 from the West. The Chiefs are the team that I don't want to play just because we have PTSD from last year. We lost twice to them. They haven't come here. I mean, the only thing that's like holding me back from saying like 100% is that Mahomes hasn't gone on the road yet in a playoff game, and like that could be a huge factor, especially if he's got to come up here in the middle of January and it's snowing and it's cold, it's windy. You don't know what he's gonna do on a road playoff game because his only one hasn't been in Tampa Bay, which was a home game for Tampa last year in Super Bowl. I like the Bengals. I'm high on that offense. I think the offense is really good. I'm not sure how that defense is going to look as the season goes along.
Yeah, the defense is what the issue is for me there.
That offense is very good. Burrow is stepping into his own. And, I mean, they have good running back, 3 great receivers. Tight end, somehow I got beaten fantasy last week by CJ Uzomah by MereKat. Don't know how that happened. But the one team, I'm scared of for the 1 seed, I still think it's the Bills to be 1. I wrote that in my article. That was prior to last week. And the team that I'm, most worried about would be Tennessee right now. The reason I said in my article is that the Bills, it's theirs to be 1 still. It's still ours to be lost, or I should say, is because Tennessee still had to play the Chiefs. They went out and they beat them by 24 points. Something you really expect to see out of Tennessee. And looking at their schedule, obviously they play in kind of a similar division to the Bills, where there's one team that you think could put up a fight, and then there's 2 other teams that are just absolutely garbage. And the Titans have that in the same division. They play the Colts, who are the Bills' Patriots, we'll say, this season. And then they have the Jags and the Texans. Looking at the rest of their schedule, they have the Rams and the Saints and the Niners as their 3 other games that could go either way. But I think the Titans beat the Saints. It's in Tennessee. I think they beat the Niners. That game's in Tennessee, and they got to go on the road in 2 weeks to play the Rams. But if that's their only extra loss, they finish 15-2 and or 14-3. Sorry,
14-3.
Bills are only
would have to run the table.
Run the table to beat them. And the game we're going to be not favored in is the Bucks. And so that we'd be 14-3 as well, but Tennessee would have the tiebreaker on us. So that's why I'm worried about them, just looking at their schedule. I mean, the Colts could steal one from them. They could be – the Colts are favored this week. Yeah. Colts are favored by 1 this week. So, I mean, the odds makers are looking at that game saying, okay, it's in Indianapolis. The Tennessee's coming off 2 huge wins that kind of nobody expected them to do. And now they're looking at this game that the Colts have a chance. And the Colts had a terrible schedule to start the season. So
really bad.
Looking at it like that, Tennessee is the team that I think we're in the biggest race for. And we can't – I mean, MereKat brought them up, but we can't forget that the Chargers are there. I mean, they play in a gauntlet of a division, but they're such a great offense. And their defense – I love Brandon Staley. He's a great coach. He trusts his team.
Great coach.
So The Chargers are there, but right now it's Tennessee and that wild card team I do not want to play.
Do you guys,
especially if it's 2v7, is the Chiefs?
do you lock in the 2 seed right now if you could? Do you sign up in ink on the 2 seed, or are you gambling it? You're gambling. So you think the 2 seed is the floor?
Yep.
Two seed is the same as the 3 and the 4 for me.
If it's not the 1 seed, I don't care what seed it is. As long as we're in. As long as we're in. But like I don't care what seed it is.
Or the road. Yeah, you don't want to be 5.
Because I'm fine stacking us up against any team that will make the playoffs out of this AFC right now. We'll be able to talk ourselves into it. It's going to be a tough matchup, probably regardless of who it is. So it's really just the buy or bust. You're going into a pit of fire in that first week of the playoffs if you don't have that bye week, because I don't think the seeding matters much, boys. There are going to be some very good teams in this AFC this year.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Ravens.
We haven't even brought up the Raiders because everyone.
That was just team. Thank you, MereKat.
Okay,
that was my team.
The AFC West right now. Like.
Yeah, I mean, but you think about it, only one team can win each division, and there's 3 extra wildcard spots, and you got. Like the Chargers are there, the Chiefs are there, the Raiders are there, the Ravens, the Bengals, they're all there. And I don't want to like Cleveland's still there. I don't even think of them right now because of all the injuries they have. But like they come back, they're high flying like they did last year. I mean, they're a Chad Henne scramble away from making into the AFC Championship game. Yeah, that's a great team. So that's already 6 teams. I haven't even mentioned Tennessee or Buffalo. That's 8 teams that are all great in the AFC right now. And you don't want to play any of them. Even if you get a home game and you get the 2 seed, you do not want to play them. It's buy or bust.
Yeah, and I really don't want to end up playing the Raiders. Like, I'm not going to lie. Hot take, worst jerseys in football. I know people love them. I don't get it. They're hideous. They always look like they're falling apart. But they have a low-key kind of, like, really good football team. I mean, like, I've never been a big Derek Carr guy, but number 2 in passing yards this year, and it's not because he has the worst defense in football supporting him at the same time. It's pretty ridiculous how good their weapons are. Like, really, really good. So good that
people
John
think
Brown
Henry Ruggs sucks. Like Henry Ruggs is really good. People think Henry
Ruggs sucks because they told him to run straight down the field for the first year of his career, and then he didn't catch a ball.
Cousins treatment where everyone just hates him, so they want to assume he's bad, and he had a few rough years. But like, hey, the past year and a half, he's been pretty fucking good, guys. Like,
yeah, and Bryan Edwards, solid number 3 receiver. Hunter Renfrow might be one of the best route runners is one of the best route runners in football. And yeah, the running backs aren't good. Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake. But he's obvious. Yeah. But
it's a good O-line.
Good O-line. Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake are pretty much Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. That's exactly what I see. So even though the running backs aren't good, then if you're going to say, oh, the running backs are good, they can't win the 1 seed. Well, then the Bills can't either, because I would say that Jacobs and Kenyon Drake are slightly better than Singletary and Moss. So, I mean, we basically already yelled back and forth at each other about why I think the Raiders are going to be, I think they will be a top 3 seed in the conference this year at the end of the day when it's the play. I do. I really do. That defense is really good. That defense is really good.
Chiefs twice, Cowboys, Bengals, Browns, and the Chargers. That Chargers Raiders game at the last week of the season.
That's big.
That's gonna be a big game. It might be for the division.
Yeah,
it could. Yeah, no, that's gonna. And if that isn't flexed, is that Sunday Night Football or anything like that? Because that's one of those games that deserves to be flexed at that point.
It's right now. It's scheduled for 4:25.
Yeah, it's already 4:25.
Oh hell yeah! Good for them. Good for them. But obviously, these aren't the teams we're focusing on this week. Focusing on the Dolphins, and the Dolphins have had a pretty rough injury report so far this week. Pulling it up here, as you can see, what's noticeable to me, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, and Noah Igbenogany, their top 3 cornerbacks all showing up here, still with limited participancy in practice. And then you can see Jerome Baker, linebacker. He had 2 linebackers go from limited to full participant, and Jalen Phillips and Elandon Roberts. Just overall, not what they would want to see going into another matchup against the Bills, where they were completely outmatched and outclassed back in week 2. And then, the ticker down at the bottom is covering up Emmanuel Sanders, who had a veteran rest day. Cole Beasley had a veteran rest day Wednesday. Spencer Brown didn't practice 2nd day in a row. Dawson Knox, we know he's out already. Justin Zimmer should be back. Boogie Basham popped up today with an illness. So that's the one big thing I think to monitor. But it's to me, this game, I'm not worried about the offense whatsoever. We know they're going to score 35 plus points, right? Especially with the injuries back there. I just need to see this defense get back to where it was in weeks 2 through 5. That's all I need right now. Is I just need to see some semblance of a team that won't let Ryan Tannehill complete 11 consecutive passes. Tua's looked better lately. He's not looked good, but he's looked better. He's making better decisions. He's not locking onto his first read. I need this defense to make him see Sam Darnold's ghosts. I just need to make him. And it's fun to say that Jacoby Brissett's the best quarterback in Miami. It's fun, but that's what it is. It's fun.
Yeah,
He's not the best quarterback in Miami.
If you look through their raw data, they don't have a running game, right? So Myles Gaskin's a fun pass catching back.
Salvin Ahmed,
yes,
and Malcolm Brown's on the IR now, who they tried to start him last week.
They lost Brown. They have Savion Ahmed. It's not a good offense anywhere around. They did not do what they were supposed to do with building that team up. They've been moving offensive linemen around. The offensive line's brutal.
Really bad.
It's can they score with the Bills?
No.
The Titans could. Can they? I just don't know. They have to play defense. It's not going to happen on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not worried about. Actually, believe it or not, I'm not worried about the Bills' defense. Can Brian Flores do something finally in his life to stop Josh Allen a little bit? That's in the red zone.
Or make his quarterback feel wanted. But
can he do something even in the red? Because he's not going to stop him from 20 to 20. Can he stop him in the red zone? That's really what this comes down to. If Flores has something like the Titans did, like a couple other teams have, the Steelers have, they have a whisper of a chance. But to me, it's the Bills' offense is something to prove. They're coming off a bye where McDermott's been perfect. A team that they've already decimated, a team that Josh Allen just particularly plays well against, and an injury report. Their entire back seven's hurt. Some of them will play, obviously. A lot of them will play, maybe, but some of them won't. And that back seven's brutal. I saw their best linebacker in Jerome Baker look like he was out for the year, and somehow he's only limited participant. I don't think there's a way he plays unless that's just a complete.
I don't think so.
Took a 180 and it's completely not a big deal. But I don't know that he plays this week. Even a banged up cornerback at all, you want to watch out for. So some of those guys aren't going to go. Devontae Parker hasn't been the same since his injury. They don't have Will Fuller. They have Waddle. Preston Williams, a guy that plays particularly well against someone like Levi Wallace, but that was with Ryan Fitzpatrick. There's not a lot to like on that offensive side of the ball. Gaskin, Mike Gesicki, it's a guy you got to count for. He's been playing better since his basically week one benching. He's a guy that pretty much matchup nightmare, but I think you stick Milano on him for the entire game. And you be you. You don't try to do something goofy. Yep. Come after Tua, blitz him, come after him, make him make decisions. He completes a pass to Mike Gesicki. Whatever. You have the best, maybe the MVP candidate on the other side of the ball. But come after him. Make him make decisions. Make him turn the ball over. Because even when he played well last week, threw 2 interceptions. So it's going to happen. They turn the ball over. The Bills get the ball at the best clip. You would need to see a Pittsburgh-style game in here for Miami to win. You would need to see a pump block. You would need to see bad special teams. You would need to see
bad play calling.
Play calling, bad red zone offense. You would need to see the gamut of the Steelers game. And guys, we've already said this on the show. We're hoping that we've left that behind in Tennessee and against Pittsburgh on week 1 in a really weird weather game coming off of COVID, just all types of different issues with one of the worst special teams performances that I've seen for this team in a while.
Yeah. I mean, MereKat, are you worried about the Dolphins being undefeated all time on Halloween, maybe?
No, I'm not worried about that. I think the line for this game is at 14 right now. I think that's generous. I think the Bills win by 3 scores, 3 touchdowns. I mean, this Dolphins team came into the season with an interesting plan on offense. They got some cool pieces and stuff, but injuries, bad offensive line play just completely derailed everything. They don't know what to do on their offensive line. They have Liam Eichenberg playing at left tackle, I believe, right now. It's just wild to me. Yeah, it's just wild to me. Austin Jackson's just incompetent at being a bookend tackle. Malcolm Brown on IR. Will Fuller on IR. Lynn Bowden Jr., who actually I thought was going to be an interesting weapon for them this year. IR. Alan Hearns, IR. Yeah. It's just
Alan Hearns. Oh my God.
Yeah, this whole team is beat to shit, especially on offense. And then you have the Deshaun trade rumors, and that's all the press is asking Tua about. Like, hey, do you think about this? Are you worried about this? Do you think they don't want you? It's just like that shit weighs on the guy like Tua, who experienced nothing but winning and respect and everything his whole life in the NFL. And now he's a couple of years in, and it's been a year and a half, and it's been rough on him so far. I like Tua. I think he's a decent prospect. His situation is horrible. The coaching developing him is not great. And I think he might be a guy who's, kind of too far gone at this point, like a Sam Darnold, where the prospect is pretty, but they're kind of ruined right off the rip by the situation around them. So I'm not worried about the Dolphins. They're so banged up. They have no identity. Flores is coaching for his goddamn life right now. It's just, you want to like this team on paper at times. You want to give them the benefit of the doubt here and there. And then, they play the Bills and Josh Allen absolutely steamrolls them. And, the defense, injured or not, it's been terrible against the pass this year. It's the third worst in the league right now, allowing nearly 300 yards per game.
Really
Josh Allen should just be able to eat. It should be a good day for him, regardless, tight end efficiency or not. Where the Dolphins' only hope, I think, is doing something. It's like a massive game out of a Mike Gesicki, a guy who's actually talented. And I did just want to bring up Jalen Phillips, the heir apparent to Greg Rousseau. Rousseau sits out his senior year at Miami, or not junior year. It sits out. Phillips takes over, takes Rousseau's number, his defensive captaincy, then gets drafted above him, and boom!
I'm doing a live show right now.
Colin, you're not muted,
it's on a live show. But Jalen Phillips has not been it, and it's just nice seeing Greg Rousseau kind of get drafted after him, have all the circumstances of people questioning him, and come right in and make an impact. So sorry, Jalen Phillips, just want to bring that up.
Let me bring you to cap on MereKat's point. I'll bring you some PFF ratings fresh off the books of the Miami Dolphins offensive line.
Love to hear
Greg
it.
Mance, 63, 17th center in the league. He's filling in for an injured Michael Dieter, who's Michael Dieter's probably better. So Mance is playing okay. Yeah. But beside that, you have Robert Hunt, the 40th ranked guard. Austin Jackson playing guard, now the 70th ranked guard. You have Jesse Davis, the 67th rated tackle out of 78 at a 52 rating. And then you have Liam Eichenberg, the tackle, a 48 rating, the 72nd out of 78 tackle in the league. Overall, worst offensive line in the league. You should not be doing anything but coming after it. You got to come after it. I don't want to see anything goofy. I want Boogie Basham. I want them all. Deactivate all the special teams linebackers. Get after this rotation. I want a Chiefs-style rotation. I want a blitz from our linebackers. I want to bring nickel blitzes. I want to bring it all because, quite frankly, I don't think the receivers can get it done. I'm fine with Trey being one-on-one. Bring it after him. Come after him in any rotation style. That offensive line's terrible. And if you're telling me you're going to match up like you did against Henry, the weakness of this team is the offensive line. McDermott's smart. He's good against – I've always said this. McDermott is a genius against middle to bottom tier quarterbacks. I've never worried in those games. He beats the games he's supposed to, which is a challenge for coaches sometimes. He wins the games he's supposed to. Yes, everyone does, but yes, he'll struggle against premier matchups. He needs to be a little bit better in teams above 500. That's his weakness, but that's probably a weakness across the league. But against bad middle tier quarterback, we'll call Tua, and bad quarterbacks, he's awesome. He schemes really well. You're never worried about a team with a good record with a muddling to average quarterback. Sean McDermott gets it done, looking on paper, looking at statistics, and knowing that offensive line's terrible. I just don't see a way that the Bills don't capitalize on that.
No. Cullen, we're coming up on the 6 o'clock mark, and we're obviously going to talk about this weekend on the pregame show, but cap off this Bills-Dolphins discussion. Anything in particular we haven't mentioned you're watching out for?
I mean, the pass rush is obviously a huge thing. You got the bye. We just coming off the bye week. You got 3 more games against the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Jags, or Dolphins, Jags, Jets, whatever the order is, to figure out who you are, and you head into the last 5-6 games of the season. Figure out what that pass rush is. We saw it shine early in the season. We've gotten away from it. Whatever, personnel is a big thing in that. Figure out what you have in these next 3 games, because these 3 games are, I'm going to put it bluntly, we should dominate these teams. This is I heard Kyle Brandt say it on One Bills Live yesterday when he was on with them, or 2 days ago. He said this is a bye month for the Bills. In the bye week, and then you have these 3 games. As easy as it gets in the NFL, and yes, you know they're not going to overlook them. They're all going to come out and say, like, all right, we're only on the Dolphins. Okay, we're only on the Jets this week. Okay, we're only on the Jags. We're not looking forward to a Thanksgiving primetime game against the Saints in New Orleans. But you use these 3 games to figure out who you are and what you have, and going forward throughout that home stretch, once you hit Thanksgiving, I mean, it's December. It's time to go. It's time to finish off the season and get that 1 seed. So figure out what you have. Let that pass rush hit home. We know the offense is going to score points. Figure out what you have on defense, because these are 3 teams that have 3 below average quarterbacks that your defense should be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, no, the schedule for the Bills down the stretch, at least in the next couple weeks, is extremely favorable. Before we get into some of those more fun games, I mean, just the Saints and the Bucks, but those will obviously be topics for over in November and December. That will do it for us tonight on the Crowd Assist podcast. Stay tuned for our pregame show this Sunday morning, going live around 11:30. We'll let you guys know the time for that. But for myself, MereKat, Cullen, Kevin, Outlet Liquor Picasso's, all of Trainwreck Sports,